Minister, Minister Harris and Minister Collins, I am encouraged by what you've had to say today. And there's some questions I want to ask you around that. And I suppose the first one is, will you make a clear commitment to implement the option 1 of the Castle's report, which requires the substantial increases in the level of state funding? Pushing the ever-increasing fees and escalating costs onto students and their families has to stop, and I think you recognise that. In our recent research telling the real story, where we heard from 1,022 students, and I'd like to share this with you because an awful lot of it is about Susie, and I think in what you're saying around, you recognise that Susie really needs to be reformed. There's a lot of really good information within this document that you might take cognizance of. But 3 out of 4 of those students told us that their families were experiencing financial stress and anxiety, and 4 out of 5 of them tell us that they're concerned or extremely concerned that they won't have enough money to go to or to remain at college. The SUSI grant system is supposed to help struggling students and their families, and too many of these struggling families are excluded. And I want to just give you an example of 2 parents, one who's on invalidity pension resulting in an accident, and the other on a disability payment after suffering a permanent injury. They are now both refused the SUSI grant based on income once the other spouse got onto the disability payment. That absolutely can't be right. But over the past month, hundreds of working parents have been in contact with our office, outlining their financial circumstances and desperate that they cannot get access to SUSI and don't have the money to send their children to 3rd level. Minister, many of these are frontline and essential workers. These are the ones we clapped for because of the tremendous work that they do, the personal risks they took and the sacrifices they made, and the sacrifices that we're going to ask them to make again in the future. So will you commit to using your statutory powers to expand and increase the SUSI grants at the first available opportunity? Young people with autism are excluded as well because many of them need to study full-time online courses, and mature students with their own children are also assessed on parents' income. Young people who are estranged from their parents, often the very most marginalised, are being told as well that they don't qualify. So there's story after story of hardship and exclusion. These students do not qualify for support, but they're also forced to pay the extortionate fees of €3,000. Now, I hope you'll not try to push the responsibility for this onto the 3rd level institutions. The upper limit is set by the government in the full knowledge that the colleges will have to charge that amount. So do you accept that in practical terms fees are set by the government, not by the institutions? Now, I welcome your recent acceptance that the fees were too high, but however, you'd forgive me for being a bit sceptical, because we all remember the Labour education spokesperson in February 2011 and the photo op signing the big USI pledge outside Trinity College, promising to freeze fees at €1,500. They also pledged to reverse the €500 increase that was made by committed to be made by the Fianna Fáil Education Minister in 2011-2012. Well, we know that Labour promise amounted to a hill of beans. They did not reverse the €500, and they oversaw the €250 per year increase to €3,000. So this, by any reasonable definition, is unacceptable. Minister, I want you to clarify maybe a number of questions first. Do students receiving the pandemic payment lose this once that they take up the college place? Because many of these students are now relying on these jobs to get them through college. The second question, are those who choose to sit their Leaving Cert in November but won't be taking up a college place until September and October next year entitled to claim an unemployment benefit if they cannot find a job in the interim? And if they don't, what are they supposed to live on? What provision have you made for the 20,000 students who sat their Leaving Certs last year? Now, I acknowledge the increase in places, but I am concerned around how they're going to be judged and if they're going to be at a disadvantage this year because of the increases in the grades. Also, Minister, I'd ask you to look at an area with the supports that are available for students studying abroad, particularly in the Netherlands. These young people who are on campus maybe 1 day a week, but they have to stay there because they cannot come home because of COVID-19. They're not entitled to a full grant. And they go to the college for 11 months of the year. A lot of them are being faced in very difficult financial circumstances. And also, is the government going to request the third level institutions to publish the timetables so that as quickly as possible, so that students can sort out their accommodation requirements? So I'd really appreciate it if you could address those. I think it was extremely unsatisfactory that Minister Foley left without answering the questions.
Well,
thank you.
Sorry, Deputy, the order of the day stipulated that Deputy Foley wouldn't answer questions unless members, as you have just done, ceded time. So I think, Deputy O'Leary, you're getting 3 minutes, so Minister has 1 minute to respond. Right. If you wish. You may, if you wish.
That was the format, actually.
Members may cede time to you to answer if they so wish.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't aware of that, but I'm more than happy to respond. So in the brief time, if I don't get to all of the issues, I'll write to you. I'll write to you, Deputy Conway-Walsh, if that's okay. In relation to the Casells report, I mean, can I just make the comment that this House, on all sides, have been in nearly Father Ted mode of, is there anything to be said for another committee? At this stage, the Casells report came to an all-party committee, and the all-party committee decided it'd be worth having an economic evaluation. Before my time in the department, or before the existence of the department, that economic evaluation was commissioned with input from the European Commission. It's due back, hopefully early in 2021. And what I can say to you is, I will not be found wanting in acting then. I'll be informed by it, but not necessarily led by it. I don't want to see students starting out their working life levelled with significant debt is the approach I bring to that. In relation to SUSI reform...
Minister, I'm going to have to ask you to take your seat. Deputy O'Leary has the 3 minutes left.
So I don't want, for people who don't understand, who watch these proceedings at home, I don't want people to think I don't wish to answer the question.
I accept that, Minister. Thank you. Deputy O'Leary.